Hey guys, this is my Jeep, and there's some top secret stuff going on with it. We'll fill you in on this later. In the meantime, we got all these builds going on, LT1s, LT5s. I did want to show you something though that a lot of you don't know we do. Here's a quick look at the power steering pump setup for the LT1, by the way. In a previous video I told you I'd show you a picture of it. This is a builder package that we offer, and a lot of guys don't know we do this, and so does John over at Overland Performance. We got everything in this package. We've got radiator, exhaust system. Okay, so let's see what we got here. On the top, we got our exhaust system, muffler, a couple of catalytic converters, stuff in this box, I don't know what that is, radiator, there's some tailpipes and other things over there. Let's look at the engine. This is a new GM remanufactured transmission. These 6L80s you get from GM are not new, they're remanufactured, but they're pretty much as good as new. All the wiring is pre-installed. Pretty much the engine is complete. We've got the engine harness installed, coolant bottle, all the accessories are on this engine. Belt drives on the engine, intakes on the engine. Literally it's a matter of plugging this stuff in. Here's your connectors to the Chrysler computer. This is basically the connector that goes between the Chrysler and the GM side. This is going to be your CAN module and interior stuff. We even got the brake booster hose on here for you. If you're running a new 6L80 or even a used one, hopefully we can see this, you should have this heat shield on here. Try to run that heat shield. We got our fuel lines on here. This is a four-wheel drive 6L80, so the transfer case adapter is going to bolt right on. Here's our shift bracket. This is for our automatic shift cable. This is for our transfer case. Notice that this is slotted, and there's actually 3 sets of holes here so that you can use different transfer cases. We've got a lot of detail here. This is our plastic inspection covers, Trailblazer manifolds with heat shields. We've got most of our wiring plugged in already. This is a factory GM harness. This happens to be an L94 engine, so this is variable valve timing, 6.2 liter all aluminum engine. Our billet brackets pretty much put all these accessories back where they were. We got our radiator hose and heater hose pre-installed. Even got an air filter on this setup. So this is about as complete as you can get. Now remember, when you get this package, you're going to drop this engine in your JK. You don't have to cut the frame mounts off and do any fabrication or welding. This mount is going to drop into your frame cradle on your JK with no modifications. These AC lines are going to hook right up. Now here's a good view of our riser block for the air conditioning. This is going to hook directly up to your stock JK air conditioning hoses. Over here on the power steering, if you can see it, that's going to hook directly up to your stock power steering lines. One advantage of that is if you ever blow a power steering hose, you can just go to the dealer and buy a new one. Air intake tube is pre-installed with the MAF sensor. Just taking a look down here, we got our ground secured to the block. Here's our knock sensor. We have our harness clips in place. We've got our transmission cooler lines already pre-installed. This is our transmission cooler lines on this end. Shift levers pre-installed. Here's our O2 sensor connectors. We got our vent lines on here for the transmission and the transfer case. This is going to go to the transfer case. This is really an awesome combination. I've got a 6.2 all aluminum LS L9H in my Jeep. Basically the difference between the L9H and the L94 is this engine has 4-cylinder mode or active fuel management where the L9H doesn't. Now here's another consideration. We are supplying a new ECM with this package. It's pre-programmed for this engine and this operating system. Inside of this 6L80 transmission, actually down here inside the valve body, is the transmission control module. Now we pre-program that in these builder packages, so it's all ready to go. You drop it in and you go. But if you're sourcing your own engine and transmission, and your transmission comes from a different vehicle than the engine, you may have to program this TCM. You can have it done using GM software, and there's some other options. You can call us about that. But you can't just mix and match these engines and transmissions at random. The year of the transmission and engine are very important, and you got to make sure that those operating systems are matched properly for tap shift, cruise control, and other functions to work properly. This is the emissions harness. We will include enough wire to go all the way back to the evap canister, so you have your fuel tank pressure sensor and your vent solenoid. GM does monitor the evap system even with the key off. It's a more sophisticated system than Chrysler runs, so it's unlikely you'll ever smell fuel. Here you can see the brake booster hose is pre-installed for you. These engines are considered production engines. They come with coils, wires, plugs, fuel rail intake. They're not long blocks by any means. These are basically production engines that GM intended to install in vehicles on the production line. So starting off with one of these engines really helps rather than building up a short block, long block. Now this engine does have a starter motor installed, which is on the other side, but if you buy a lift-out engine, go ahead and get the starter motor with it. You will notice we are running the stock JK alternator, and smart charging stays enabled. This build is running a PSC pump. I don't know if you can see that, but I believe this customer has hydraulics in his Jeep, so we fitted a PSC pump. This is a stock JK tensioner, a new JK tensioner, and then of course this is a new JK air conditioning compressor. So we get all the accessories pre-installed in this engine for this customer, and basically when he drops it in, he's just going to hook up the hoses, lines, and wires and be ready to go. So that's a quick peek at our builder package.